to the nurse's station.
Lawless country people are real close family. Lately, some of my kinfolk don't get around too good, you see. When that doctor asked them, son, how'd you get in this condition? They says, hey, soft bones, I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. They wanna know, Doc, why do you think I got some pain in my joints from years of playing hard in this life that's too short? When that doctor asked me, son, how'd you get in this condition? I says, hey, soft bones, I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell me all about it, Doc.
One of the things that athletic training taught me was to become a listener because, and you've probably seen it, a kid who's hurt and not playing, or a kid who's not playing as much as he would or she would like, the athletic training room was like a safe haven for them. They'd come in and you had to kind of listen to there and be like a cab driver or a bartender.
Yeah, I was going to say bartender, right?
Yeah, and I think that helped me with coaching because there were times when I probably would have said something or did something different, but somebody taught me a long time ago, 24-hour rule. If you don't do anything in the first 24 hours because you're going to probably regret it because you thought you saw something when in fact it was not what you saw. And that advice for the most part did me well. And then you come back 24 hours later and you're looking at it completely different and you're patient and you're not ready to rip a kid's head off.
Yeah, it's emotion, right? You shouldn't make any statements or decisions. I'm guilty of that a lot, especially with parenting. But sometimes you have to, right? You're like, maybe I didn't see him body slam him or put him in a headlock. Like last night, I'm playing like referee down here and breaking up a fight, which is a nightly thing. So
yeah, having girls, I didn't have to deal with that. It was just what Barbie doll was stolen. Or something.
So again, 8 championships. Do you have a favorite?
I said that once real early on, and I realized I'd made a mistake because it's like people saying, which of your children do you love the most?
Yeah.
And I had a couple of parents come back afterwards, good-naturedly, but I just had a retirement party the night before Thanksgiving, and I had kind of jotted down some notes, and what I forgot to tell them, that probably the game that I think made a big difference in our program happened in April of 1989. So there's this big year-end showcase tournament, and it was in Chicago all the time. And Team Pittsburgh sent a representative every year, and Meadville kids were not invited. They were not allowed to join, go to the tryouts. And we had a gap between the Western Final and the state championship game, and I was kind of going out of my mind, just too much downtime.
Yeah.
I just want to play and get it over with. And Team Pittsburgh needed a game before they went out to Chicago. So we played them in Meadville, and we were down 5-2 at the end of the second period. And as time expired, we scored the 6th goal and beat them 6-5. And the next year, Meadville kids were invited to this Team Pittsburgh. And I think that really gave us a lot of exposure. I think the people that down there that were reasonable said, it's a Western Pennsylvania thing. It's not a Pittsburgh thing, really. It's called Team Pittsburgh, but it's really a Western Pennsylvania.
Pull it in just a little bit.
They were taking kids from Katanning, and Butler, and so that was probably one of the things I was most proud about.
So it's a moment.
Yeah,
right? It's like a game that like you felt changed the culture, and
it was something that the kid intercepted the puck. It seemed like with 5 seconds left, and it was like everything went to slow motion. I said, time's going to run out. And as the puck crossed the goal line, the buzzer went. And it was one of those games where we had a lot of people in the stands, and it was the little town of Meadville, you know.
David versus Goliath.
Yeah, that was kind of the mentality we had going into the game. You know, we have no business winning this game. We're playing probably a better team than you're going to see in the state championship. Let's just go out and have some fun and do what we can do. And we're down 5-2 at the end of the second. And, you know, some kids, you know, might have thought, well, that's it. You know, let's look to the state championship game. And we had a great group of kids that year. Then that was my first group. They were seniors. They won 2 state titles in their 3 years.
So I love it, though.
I appreciate it, and I do. I appreciate your interest in it. I'll tell you this: I'm a fan just as much as you. You know, I really am. Like, I'm a fan of the system. I watch. I mentioned Coach Crutchfield, who again I probably haven't given enough credit to, but like, he's the guy. He created this. He has a little bit of a tree. There's a guy.
Is there disciples that are going out?
There's a guy named Devin Hearn that's at Bluefield State University, young head coach there. There's a guy named Mike Lamberti that's at Coker College, University, I'm not sure.
So are you guys going to maybe meet up?
Well, ironically, you may not have known this part, but so last year in the national championship game, we played West Liberty in the final.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'll have to send you the link.
So
you'd enjoy watching the game.
Was that a system coach that took over at West Liberty?
Yeah. So was my assistant. One guy had left. Ben Hallett is his name, came in, took over, and just continued the winning. He did a phenomenal job there. His assistant, Mike Lamberti, is now at Coker.
What was the final score?
Was the highest scoring game in NCAA history. It was 111-101.
For a national championship game, you say?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was crazy. Just ironic. You can imagine looking up there. All my college teammates were there. Some of them wearing West Liberty stuff. A couple wearing actually Nova stuff. A couple of my closer friends. And there were some I still remember seeing them sit up in the middle, and they were wearing just average clothes, you know, no logos on them, just trying to be neutral. But a very weird experience. But again, I think it's just more proof to the system. It's garnered a lot of attention. It always had legs, but far more so since the national championship game. And, you know, guys like Coker, I think right now we're 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the country in scoring. Us, Nova Southeastern, West Liberty University, and Coker University are 1, 2, 3, 4, and not just scoring, but a handful of categories. So it's very strange. It's very weird. Even for me, I mean, sometimes I take myself out of it. Like, I don't even know how this works sometimes myself, you know?
Well, that's like me with doing surgery. I'm like, I'll take a step back. I'm like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
We're cutting these people. We're chopping the ends of their bones off, and we're putting metal and plastic in there. Like, can you imagine the first surgeon that decided to do this? But it wasn't metal. It was like wood.
Sure.
And the patient, how did you convince this patient that, hey, let me cut you open.
Sure. I'm
going to whack the ends of your bones off because your knee hurts really bad.
Sure.
And I'll make it feel better because I'm going to put these materials in there. Like, sign me up. No, thank you.
Sure.
Right? Like, let me see the success first. But like, there's obviously a lot of success. So what's it like for like your dad or some of your other, you know, people that grew up around you coming to watch you with this style of play? Are they like, what are you doing? Or do they just know enough that it works?
I mean, I think the first answer to that question is like, what it's like is probably very rewarding for them, but not as rewarding for them it is for me. There's nothing cooler to me than like watching my high school buddies who now have kids and their boys are on the ride. I'm getting texts constantly from, you know, Astorino texts me a picture of his son Brooks, and his son Brooks got the Gannon poster on his wall. Like, that stuff is far more rewarding.
You know,
to me.
Tino got 13 autographs that night. It's
he
up in his room. Up in his room.
Yeah, and that stuff like that to me is far more rewarding than, you know, than the flip of it. But I think they've seen it long enough. Like, they followed my career at West Liberty, and then they followed.
So it wasn't
games at
like,
Nova.
what is this?
It's kind of like they know what we do now.
Yeah.
And this is the brand of basketball they like to watch and follow. But I'm just.
Does your dad like watching it?
Oh yeah.
Is it kind of tough for him though? Because
it's like, I probably should ask him the question. I'm not sure I've ever asked him. I think I should say, would you rather us play a different way? And he might answer yes. You know, he is so traditional and maybe a little bit different. But again, he saw so much success, guys like him and Bill Hager, that they played a different way, but there was 1,000 different ways to win.
Yeah, that's more than one way to skin a cat, right?
Correct. So like, is this the way that he would do it now if he had to start all over again? I don't know. I've never asked him the question. I might have to ask him when I see him.
Yeah.
But
we interrupt this episode of Hey Saw Bones to surprise Coach Jordan Fee. He has never asked his father the question, so we decided to go ahead and ask his dad the question for
It's
him.
a fun way to play, and it's fun for the players. I think it's a fast-paced way to play, and a lot of teams can't play that way. And I know we did it, at Maplewood. We pressed teams and put pressure to basketball, and I know Bill and I went to Bobby Knight's clinics, and even though they were not a pressing team, they still pressured the basketball in the half court. And it was a lot about defense. Bobby Knight's team holding teams under 50 points a game. This is a totally different style, and even though they score a lot of points, their emphasis is on their defensive pressure and really trying to up tempo style, and it's about creating more possessions. And I've seen teams, when Jordan was an assistant with Crutchfield, I watched teams, hang, and then they would just collapse, and then all of a sudden there'd be like a 10-0 run, and it would go from 10 to 20 in a heartbeat, and the bottom would kind of fall out. So that's kind of the style and the idea of the thing. And like I said, it's a fun way to play for the players, and if you get the right kind of guys in that system, it can be very successful.
And then the three-point line totally changed the game. And to add to what Jordan is doing and what his coach did for years, amazing, and won the national championship last year, Division II, is they shot a ton of threes. And then plus the full court man-to-man pressure, I think, is just tremendous. But this is years ago. Jordan went to West Lib, played for Crutchfield, and I'd go down with Don, and we'd even go to some practices and some games. And we were amazed at the pressure they put on and the shooting of the threes. And Nick was at Bethany coaching, and they scrimmaged West Lib one time. And Crutchfield got his team there an hour before the game, and all they did for an hour was shoot threes. I said, wow, no wonder they're so darn good at shooting the threes. But I think the three-point line and their full court pressure, I think their full court pressure is tremendous. And back in when Jordan was playing for him and then assistant, that I put more emphasis on pressing and ran a lot of, we pressed every day in practice. And then we'd always put the JVs up 15, 8 minutes on the clock. And now we're gonna try to come back. And every point we come back and won by, the JVs had to run half of a suicide. But Don and I go way back. He was my assistant back at Maplewood, got the phys ed job, and we had a lot of fun coaching together. And then he broke my heart and left and went to Grove City, and became the head coach down there. And then I went temporarily insane, took a job in Jamestown, New York, and then finally got back to Pennsylvania in a year and coached at Franklin. Then we went to head a few times. We had a lot of fun coaching against each other, and so it was good stuff.
If I hadn't had so much fun coaching with you for those 8 years, I'd have had a lot more wins at the varsity level, maybe.
I'd have left a little earlier, huh?
I think there's times where he probably feels like, boy, it looks undisciplined, and these shots are kind of wild, and you're flowing strictly off of momentum.
Yeah, when I was seeing some of these shots like 10 feet beyond the three-point,
probably wonder, like, what are these guys doing? They're just chucking shots, but there's a method to it. And our guys, and we talk about knowing the difference between a good and a great shot. And great shot for one guy might not be a great shot.
Yeah,
it's just not an equal opportunity offense, So,
exactly. Number 24, I think, has a green light to pretty much. He gets over half court. It's like if there's not a defender within 3 feet, is he able to shoot it?
I've yet to tell him don't shoot it. He's smart enough. I trust him enough to where like he'll make the right decision. You know, and if he does, if he's taken a bad one, he'll be the first to say, "Hey, I could probably get a better one." But again, it's part of I think the trust that the system breeds. There's so much unselfishness with it, right? To do it, you can't be a selfish guy. So
right. So why don't you ask me some questions now? Because normally when we do this podcast, we kind of ask questions back and forth. So,
what's your favorite Jordan that you have out
wow.
of your collection?
That's a good question. So he asked, what is my favorite Jordan shoe that I have?
We forgot to tell though.
Oh, we'll tell him. Yeah, don't worry. And he also said, hey, Dad, you have 98 subscribers, only 2 more to get to 100. And I said, well, I think your episode's definitely going to push it over the top if it doesn't happen before that. But I have a feeling, watchers out there, subscribe. Encourage those that you share it with to subscribe so we can get that viewership up. These boys are checking it all the time. I don't check it nearly as much as they do.
And like.
And like it too. You want to like it. Maybe leave some comments. Mm-hmm. So you asked me what my favorite Jordans were of all times. So if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I was had the Jordan 4, the Breads. And they're still
2019.
Definitely in my top 3. I really, really like the Jordan 1s. Which pair of Jordan 1s? Probably the pair that I'm going to wear. Maybe I'll wear them for Tino's episode. I'm not sure.
Which one?
I have the Carolina blue and black toe, the Air Jordan 1 lows.
The ones that you were in today earlier?
No, those are different. Those are laser blues. Yeah, similar. But they're all black and Carolina blue. But this part, the toe, is actually black, which was kind of unique about that particular version. And then I would say
like you can
my third page.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm gonna
up
do
to 12.
Oh, I'll just do 3.
Okay.
My third would be probably, and I don't have them yet because they're ridiculously expensive. The Jordan 11 Concord lows, the lows. I have the highs, the Jordan 11 Concord highs, but I like the lows. They're a lot more comfortable, and I just like the look of them better too. So let's hear about your shoes, and then I'm going to ask you a couple more questions too.
Mine are the Jordan 1 Concord lows.
And what do you like about that pair of shoes? I have a lot of things I like about it, but what do you like?
That it has the blue on the insole and the black that's like that.
Yeah, the shiny patent leather. So that was kind of a feature of the Jordan 11, the Concords. So that when they made these obviously came out way before, but they didn't have the patent leather, the Jordan 1s. They kind of combined the two. And they took the patent leather from the 11s and put it on the 1s, which is really cool. So do you know what pair these are?
Jordan 5.
They're Jordan 5s. You are correct.
I don't know the name.
Oh, yeah. These are, that's a good question because I don't think I know the name either. We'll have to look these up. We can do a Google image of it.
Right here.
Yeah. So, Jay, I'll tell you what the name of it is, and you can just put that in there. I failed you. This is one of the first times I've worn this pair. So, I did not look to see which one they were. But what are your favorite 3 pairs of Jordans? Give me your number 1, 2, number 3.
The silly strings that I have.
Oh yeah, those are cool. And Jay will get you a photo of those. They're Air Jordan 1 high. Are they really called silly strings?
They're called messy room, but I call them silly strings.
Yeah, because it kind of looks like a silly string that you shot all over them. They're very colorful.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that number 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
Off-white University blue Jordan 1 highs.
Ooh, off-white. You're getting specific, so not just white and Carolina blue. So white, off-white, University blue, Jordan 1 highs. Yeah. You don't have those?
No.
Yeah. Is that a hint?
Mm-hmm.
And what about your third favorite pair?
The Chicago ones are those. The red and
So the
black
the
and
breads.
white. Yeah.
Air Jordan 1 high breads.
Off-white.
Well, you'll be off-white. Oh, you like the off-white. What do you like about the off-white?
That. I don't know.
Yeah, just like the way it looks?
Yeah.
Okay. I know what you do for kind of like your day job, but again, you're super busy. When I first met you, you were at, it was Family First at that time. And was it Nautilus?
Gosh, that was Family First. That was, 20, what year was that? 98, 99? It's a long
Yeah,
time
it
ago.
was,
Yeah,
I
they
think
just opened.
I
You were in
was,
medical school,
it would have been when I was there, it would have been 2001 because I was at medical school and I was coming up there. I was playing basketball leagues and I was working
still an
out.
undergrad then. I probably when I met you, or just starting graduate school. I started 2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know, you've done this personal fitness stuff. You've done the Mercyhurst stuff. You were at LeCom for a period of time. It's like you've almost become full circle in Erie, where you've been and where you've moved and come back to. And now there's a LeCom partnership again with you. But who was it that got you so interested in fitness and just like health and wellness?
You know, for me, I always wanted somebody to believe in me, right? Because I did move so much, right? My dad loved us, right? And his love as a father was his job, right? He put a lot of work in.
What did your dad do?
He got his PhD in genetics and biology. Worked as a faculty in science, and then worked his way up a ladder in administration. The administrative job is what moved us around. I felt like he should have been a head football coach because we moved every 5 years as he worked his way up the ladder. But I loved it, when he came to my games. I loved when he was there to watch. I had an older brother too, but we were 8-9 years removed. So I had coaches, and the feeling that I got from people believing in that I could do something. I'll paraphrase Ralph Waldo Emerson had a quote: "Is people just want someone to believe in them, so the knowing that they can achieve what they can achieve." That's paraphrased, but that's why I became a coach. And I wasn't always sure I wanted to be a coach, like a strength and conditioning coach of all things. I knew I loved fitness, I loved sport. It was a way to connect with other people and get me, especially in the communities I've moved all over. That's how I made friends. But strength conditioning, I found that route through a mentor of mine, Tracy Pillay. He was at University of Arkansas, taking some college classes down there. My father was working down there, and we'd get up early in the morning and run. He had a PhD in pedagogy, education, physical education, and he was leaving, and he got a job at Minnesota State Mankato. And he got there, and he's like, "Hey, I know you've been really trying to figure out what you want to do with your graduate school. There's a graduate assistantship available at the school. Why don't you come be my graduate assistant?" And we just connected because he liked to get up and run. I always got up early, and I would run with him and just talk.
So you're a morning person?
Yeah, love mornings. I think I'm way more productive in the morning.
Same
than
here.
Any other time of the day.
100%.
And so connected with him and invited me out there, and still stay in touch with him. But learned more about exercise science. Wasn't sure I was going to go that route. I thought sports psychology was really cool. But I was a track athlete, played all the other sports, basketball. Loved basketball. It was my favorite sport growing up. I fell into hockey because of going to Minnesota. Hockey was not popular in Western Pennsylvania when we lived here.
Right.
Wasn't for, thankfully for Mario Lemieux, it's a sport that's grown because of the Penguins. But I went and moved back from Minnesota, wanted to learn about hockey. And,
Do you know Jamie Plunkett?
Yeah.
Did you see his episode?
Yeah, that was awesome.
I'll have to send you, there's a cool little 5-minute video, and it's done by one of the, and the way they do it is by cartoon drawings and stuff and that, but it shows how the brain is rewired basically compared.
It's scary.
It is.
It really is scary because these kids, they get these highs, right? Yep. And my youngest son, they all are on their iPads doing stuff and playing games and this and that, but it's just like, they're in their own little zone and world, and you take it away and it's just like they go into meltdown mode.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I'm very blessed and fortunate that I didn't grow up in that era. But on the same flip side, now we have the challenges, Karen and I, to hopefully raise our boys. And I will say, our boys are very, very active. They're always outside. Like before you came over, we were actually outside shooting.
Yeah.
Played crossbow.
Okay.
And they play tons of sports. So for kids their age, I would say that they actually are on technology less, but still more than I would like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hard balance in today's world because it is the idea, I remember, so I have an 18-year-old son and I would say, get off your game now. And he'd be like, well, Mom, I'm in the middle of a game. And one day he came down Mom, if I was outside playing basketball and there was 30 seconds or 2 minutes left in the game, would you tell me to get off? And I'm like, or stop playing the game. And I'm like, oh, okay, because he's with his friends on there. And I said, but when 2 minutes are up, then there's not another 10 minutes after that. Type,
Yeah,
you
we're
know
not
what I
going to
mean?
overtime.
Yeah. So it's a challenge. It is a challenge because sitting in the classroom, like you would, have you taught in a college, like anywhere at a college classroom? In the
No,
last-
not anytime
especially after
recently.
COVID, like they got so used to being able, like always being on their computers. Every kid comes from a high school that either has Chromebooks or iPads now because we didn't use any paper during that time. And then they all have their phones with them. So it, like in the classroom, it used to be like you'd have one kid with their computer open and they were almost embarrassed by it because they had a learning differences and they needed it for note taking or something.
Yeah.
Now it's like half the class have their computers on and you know that there's notifications coming or there's games coming and
I would have a really hard time with that.
it's hard. Old school me and that I tell them like the only reason I'm getting on you this is because I care.
Yeah.
You know, I always try to reference that because I need you to be engaged. I need, and if you don't pay attention now while I'm talking, when you go to study, it's going to be 10 times as hard because you weren't, you're just going to be like, I don't remember her talking about this. Well, it's because you weren't really here.
Yeah.
So we have these conversations all the time. And sometimes they look at me and just are like, oh, here she goes again. But it's like 2/3 of the way through the semester, all of a sudden the light bulb goes off and they're like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. So let's move into the last one, basketball. So what do you like about basketball? What's your favorite position?
Point guard.
You like point guard. What do you like about point guard?
Just when you go down the court, like you have like 3 options. You can continue to dribble, shoot, or pass.
Yeah. So the ball's already in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you, like Luca and Anthony, you had your first basketball game yesterday for MYAA. And then you had your first McDowell Sunday League game today against the other Asbury team. And you're 2-0 in your 2 games. And you guys did really well. I think your first game, you guys scored a lot of points in that. Both games, actually.
Yeah.
I think 50 in both.
40 to 9.
Oh, yeah. 40-9 was the first game yesterday. Yep.
50 to 34.
50 to 34 today. Yeah. And what's your favorite part of, say, playing offense?
Shooting threes.
Oh, geez. How did I know that? Where'd you get that from? Who kind of inspired you to shoot threes? Do you have like a mentor or role model?
You and Stephen Curry.
Me. Yeah, me and Stephen Curry. That's probably the only time you're ever going to hear those 2 names said in the same sentence. But thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was definitely, during Luca's little episode, I said, I noticed he's not afraid to shoot. And you definitely are not afraid to shoot. And I say that with all respect because if you weren't a good shooter, I would say maybe look to pass more, but you're pretty deadly, especially from behind the 3. You had your game today, you had 4 3-pointers, and one was, you about gave me a heart attack when you dribbled down and there's like 11 minutes left in the game, no reason to shoot it. He's point guard. Nobody's guarding him. Could have just taken it right to the hole when he pulls up literally 10 feet behind the 3-point line and fires it. And as the ball's in the air, I'm like, Tino, that's not a good shot. Swish. The ref looked over at me and winked. The other assistant coach looked over at me and goes, yeah, Dad, it's hard when you've got the results, though. And you kind of looked over at me and you kind of gave me the little Michael Jordan shrug. Like, you remember when he was hitting all those threes against Portland? Yeah. You kind of did that to me. You're like, I don't know. So, and then defensively, what do you like about basketball defensively?
Like, you can steal the ball.
Yeah. Do you like playing on the ball defense, or do you like it when you're playing help defense? Like, say, the point guard has it and you're guarding the shooting guard.
On the ball.
You like on the ball?
Yeah.
Easier to steal for you?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, favorite food?
Pizza.
Pizza. So, favorite pizza of all time?
Where was that one place in... Wait, where are you... Like, place or toppings?
Well, we can do both. Like, if you were on a desert island somewhere and you were stuck there for the rest of your life, or at least you didn't know when you were going to get off the island, and you only had one food that you could pick for the rest of your life, would it be pizza?
Yeah, with cheese.
With cheese. Where would it be from? Like you can pick from any restaurant you've ever, or pizzeria you've ever been to anywhere in the world.
Do you remember that one place in Italy when we just got to that second house?
The second house in the Amalfi Coast?
Yeah.
In Ravello? Yeah.
That was so good.
We went to a restaurant there? Which restaurant was
No,
it?
we didn't go to a restaurant. We just got pizza.
Oh, we had pizza. Was it delivered?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good pizza. So my last personal question is kind of going back to Italy, our trip there. What was, if you could just go through your whole family, if you know them, but like, what was your favorite memory from that trip, your favorite location, meal, whatever it may be, Susan, and then Marco and Dominic? I think I know one of them at least. Probably yours.
Well, obviously golfing at Marco Simone golf course. You know, that's a low riding fruit.
Yeah.
I mean, that was special. I mean, you know, watching the Ryder Cup about a year later
with your house and my house. I said, I was like, yeah, I'm going to buy this one. Greg, you can buy that one.
Yeah. Well, the golf course looked a lot different.
It did.
When they played the tournament, thankfully, because it was obviously not ready when we played it. But you know, that was pretty special. I mean, my son Marco Simone, you know, he had a great time. That was just really neat. You know, as a big golfer.
You know, it'd be kind of cool.
You know,
Jay, you'll be listening. Marco's a pretty good little golfer. Obviously, Jay is a very, very good golfer. I mean, he was a golf pro there for years. If you have any videos of Marco just swinging a club, because he's got a great, beautiful swing, send that to Jay as one of the assets, because he'll ask you for stuff. And put that in there, because that would be really cool.
Yeah.
You may even have one from Marco,
we've got some pictures
from
sure.
Marco Simone.
Oh yeah, Marco
that'd be
Simone.
a kind of cool one.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that was a neat. I mean, I'll never forget the language barrier of trying to get. Are we riding? Are we walking? If we're walking, we need some sort of trolley. They call them trolleys, and you know, then we get then Dr. Molly, you know, of course, pays for the upgrade of the remote controlled trolley, and I think Marco might have been more excited about using that than the golf. But
I didn't want to walk to begin with, and then they didn't have enough carts. Right? They were like out of carts.
And that's a European thing. You know, I mean, they don't usually use carts. I'm on like a listserv on Facebook, and someone wrote something about a rain delay or cart path only. You're like, such and such. Don't you think that when you check in, they should tell you before you pay that it's cart path only? And some guy wrote in, he's like, I'm from England. What does cart path only mean? Because they don't have carts. Like they don't. That's not a thing. You know. So anyway, I mean, that was a great moment, but not, you know, that was a unique opportunity, and we almost weren't able to play because they air raided, and so that was cool. I really enjoyed the dinners that we had sort of
at the houses,
catered or made, and the one that was the best, and I feel like the views are, you know, Amalfi and all three. I mean, it was amazing. Obviously, the Rome house didn't have much of a view, but that food, that spread was amazing. You know, Rome is a very busy, lot of graffiti. Like, it's unfortunate that it's sort of turned into this big city. But, you know, you and I, we haven't talked a lot about Rome, but I really had a great time at that dinner. I'll never forget the outdoor seating at the other two places.
You and I sat next to each other. I've got a photo. It's actually, when you watch your podcast, it's the photo of you and I in that podcast. It plays every time at the beginning of my podcast. And that was one of my favorite dinners.
In Rome?
Yep. The last night that we were there and we went out to dinner.
Yep.
We had that really, really long table, and it was cool.
Yep.
What would this podcast be if we didn't mention your senior year?
Yeah, senior year was going into our senior year, because, sophomore year, we went back to the state final and lost. And then our junior year, who I thought was maybe one of the best teams in my 4 years at prep, we end up losing in the Western final to Ringgold. And we had the game won, and they made a 3/4 court shot to put it into overtime, and then they beat us in overtime.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
And then going into our senior year, our senior year was special because, my previous 3 years, we had names like Jed Ryan, who went on the Penn, Booker Coleman, who went on to Wisconsin and played. We had some bigger names. And going into our senior year, those people are gone. So now we had to rely on ourselves, number one. And then we were just, 6, 7, 8 kids from just the Catholic schools in the area, because Booker came from Jamestown. Jed was from Albion. Now our senior year, it was just our local, your Catholic school kids that went to Catholic school grade school.
So you've been playing together for a while.
And I don't think anyone was really giving us a chance. We would be good, but we lost the big names. They're not going to be great. However, we did have a sophomore coming up that year, Julian Blanks, who went on to play LaSalle, who's one of my best friends. And, so not too many people kind of knew about him or what impact he would have on our team. I remember this clear as day. We were leaving an open gym in the fall, probably a couple weeks before the season was starting, and me and a couple of my senior teammates were walking to our car, and we kind of just stopped and we talked and said, no one's expecting big things from us this year, and now we're seniors. It's our chance to prove everybody wrong, and I think that's what made the year so special, because not a lot of people expected big things, and we ended up.
John Trokey.
Trokey, yeah. Brian Shezakowski,
yeah.
R.J. Fiorelli, who was a year below me. We just were all so close. Similar type.
Graham Weatherspoon was in there, right?
He
was a year below you, right?
Me,
yeah, he was my year.
We just, we wanted to prove people wrong. We ended up making it to the state championship. And
who'd you play against?
Played against Kobe Bryant. Yep. What an amazing experience. And at that time, you didn't think like you were playing against Kobe Bryant. You didn't know what was going to go on. You knew he was good. That's the guy you heard about in Pennsylvania, and then on a national level too, all year. But we played against guys like throughout our career. We played against Ron Artest. We were in a tournament with Mike Bibby, Tim Thomas, who played at Villanova and went in onto the pros. Sam Clancy, who played collegiately, Shaheen Holloway, who's now a coach at Seton Hall. We played against him. So we played against a bunch of big names. So playing against Kobe was just another game for us. And obviously it was a big game that we wanted to win, and we fell short. To this day, I still think, I always say this, we had a chance to win that game, and I'm not so sure they were the better team that day. Obviously they won, but we weren't overmatched.
Yeah. Yeah, my family, we used to go to Hershey all the time. Mm-hmm. That was our family trip, and that was one of the years I did not actually physically make it. I watched the game on TV, but one of my best friends at LECOM, when I was in med school, he played against Kobe the same year you played against. He was from Scranton, so he played against him in the Eastern Conference Finals before Hershey.
Yep.
And he showed me videos. He's like, yeah, see, I'm guarding Kobe. I'm like, and I'm like, all right, let's watch this. Kobe he was like a man amongst boys against that team, and I think he had probably 7 or 8 dunks. But like you said, you didn't know at that time what was going to happen or who he was going to become. Yep. I mean, easily one of the top 5, if not, some people would say top 10 for sure. I'd put him in my top 5, especially competitors. Other than Jordan, I don't think there's one guy that I could say that was more competitive than Kobe Bryant, and he closely replicated his game after Jordan.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. Kobe was Michael Jordan to me is the GOAT, but Kobe was someone when I coached, I would always use him as an example to my players. because of his work ethic. His work ethic was second to none. The stories you read about him, you know, in the gym at 5 a.m, in the gym 4 or 5 times a day, just the things he did to prepare was on a whole nother level. But when he got on the court, the way he competed was amazing. I don't know if we'll ever see anyone compete like he did in wanting to be the best and to prove that he was the best. Not just for a season, but he did that every game for 82 games in a season. He was special. Kobe became, I remember sitting on the floor outside the locker room after they beat us in the state final and quoting that I didn't think he was that great and why was he going to go to the NBA and things like that. And obviously he proved me wrong, but he became one of my favorites to follow and watch. And the other day I bought a poster off the internet to hang in my basement, him leaning over his jersey and a quote just about working hard and persevering and things like that.
If you're comfortable, describe the hardest thing that you've had to overcome in your professional life.
In my professional life, hardest thing I've ever had to overcome.
Well, we could say life. It's,
yeah. Wow. Gosh, let me think about that a little bit. You know, I've had a lot of challenges in my life, whether it was academically or whatnot. But the more I think about it, and this is going to sound probably a little arrogant, but when I look back on it, none of it was really as hard as I thought it was at the time. Maybe I underestimate it now, but maybe the current, it's just because once you get through something, maybe you just inherently think it was easier than what it really was, right? Like when I look back on like just getting into an orthopedic residency, that at that moment, that seemed like the hardest thing in the world to me. And then when I got in, maybe I just went a little crazy in my mind and just said, wow, that wasn't that hard. But I would say starting a practice kind of from scratch and building it and just dealing with people and staff and getting through a pandemic, like doing all that kind of in that little period of time has been pretty challenging. But at the same time, I've been so blessed with amazing staff members and teammates to help me accomplish that. You know, whether it was relocating from Michigan to Pennsylvania, that wasn't that difficult. You know, I think moving from an acute care hospital setting to a physician-owned hospital setting, there was certain challenges and struggles with that. But at the end of the day, was by far and away the best decision I ever made. Although there was those challenges there. So Matt, that's a tough thing. Maybe my week-long fast was my. I'm kidding,
but no, I think your point is actually made pretty well. You know, there are a lot of hurdles in life.
Yeah,
and as the hurdles approaching, you're kind of dreading it. Hey, do I have what it takes to get over? Right? I can't touch it. I can't touch this hurdle. I have to get over it. And I don't think I can. Right? And you do. And you grow. And then the next thing comes up. And that's what life is, right? It's these. And
you get over that hurdle, and that hurdle didn't seem so high anymore.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Right. But at the time,
I feel like it's probably the most current thing.
Yeah.
Is probably the hardest thing that you're dealing with, because you're dealt with obstacles and you're saying, how do I do this? You know, you're going to get through it because I've always found a way, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. I never give up. But it's usually the most current thing, I would say.
No, I think it's very fair.
What other sports do you play?
So I also play flag football. It's not like anything serious, but I enjoy watching football and playing football in the yard with my brothers and with my dad. my cousins,
Neighbors.
neighbors.
Yeah, we have a lot of football going on in this backyard. You guys have worn out that patch.
Yeah.
And we're never growing grass on that patch
No.
again. It's home plate. It's where the quarterback stands.
Yep.
It's the batting
The
box.
wiffle ball, batting box.
It's everything.
Yep.
So you also play basketball. You had your first
Yep.
game yesterday. Had a nice game.
Mhm.
4 points.
Yeah.
Hit a couple jumpers.
Yep.
What else? You play golf.
I play golf in the summer, which wasn't ever really too big to me, but you inspired me to play that because like I didn't really enjoy golf during like the summer, and then once I like went out to the driving range with you, you'd like instruct me. Not saying you're not the best golf player, but you're like
Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, you are pretty good.
Oh
I mean,
gosh. Oh, he's pointing to the club championship up there.
Yep.
I mean, I was good for a day,
Yeah.
which sometimes it's all that matters, right?
I mean,
big
the
day.
Masters, they can be good for a few days, and
Yeah.
they could be.
Other than that, I'm average at best, but I enjoy playing, and I'm happy to say that I inspired you to try another sport because you've got a nice little golf swing. Your golf swing's better than my golf swing, and you've only been playing for like a couple years now.
Yep.
So what else? We talked about like favorite food. What's your favorite food?
Probably. I'm not like the biggest food guy, but I really like anything chicken or pasta.
So say you're on a desert island, right? Your plane crashes and you swim and you can only eat one food for the rest of your life, or as long as you're on the desert island and you have no idea how long you're going to be on the desert island. What would it be?
Well, actually steak too, but
So you can pick one meal. So you got to pick wisely, right? You don't want to pick something that you're
No.
going to get sick of. And regardless of what you pick, you're going to get sick of it eventually. But if you had to pick one thing,
all right, I don't know if this is cheating for it, but I'd have steak as my main entree.
yeah, I'll give you a
And-
side dish.
And on my side dish, I'll have some pasta.
Ooh, wow,
with,
you're getting
with
a little.
some chicken Alfredo in it too. I mean,
Now I think you're cheating, but that's actually a really good plan, right? You get your steak, you get your chicken, you get your pasta, and some days if you're not feeling the pasta, you just eat your chicken and the steak.
Yep.
And some days if you're not feeling the steak, you just eat your chicken Alfredo and pasta, and you can mix and match, right?
Yep.
Awesome. So, what is your superpower? You know, and I didn't ask the other boys this, but I ask a lot of my guests, like, if you had like one best quality about Anthony Molly that makes you unique and special and successful.
Let me think.
I'll give you an example of mine.
Yeah.
Mine is like just my grit and determination, right? So like I was never the smartest. I was never the most athletic. I was smart. I was athletic, but I wasn't the guy that could run the fastest, jump the highest, any of those things. But my work ethic and my determination and grit, and to like never ever give up was
Like,
kind of.
I'm not the easiest going person. Can be sensitive at times.
Yeah, I'm very sensitive too.
Yeah, I'm.
He's
really
like, yeah.
sensitive. Like maybe if I'm like the encouragement to do several things at once, or just let's say I go to school. Everybody goes to school. Every boy and girl goes to school at the age of like 5 through
18.
18.
Yeah.
Or beyond that. And but like the encouragement to go to school all day, which everybody else does, like I said, but I'll go home, I might play some video games. I'll do my homework. Sometimes I'll come down here. Well, most of the time I'll come down and play mini basketball in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
My mom will set up an activity for me, like something to do, and or like I can do several things. Like I can do way more than 2 things, and I'm not gonna get tired of it.
Yeah. You have a lot of energy.
Yes.
That's for sure. You always need to be doing something. Whereas, and that's the beauty of everybody being different, right? Like Santino and you are very different. Like you all like to play sports. He really likes to read, and he can honestly just sit down, chill, grab a book, and read for an hour. Whereas you are more like you like to go. You like to go places. You like to be on the go. You like to be what's next? What's next? What's next? Like you're again, a lot of energy.
It's easy to do when you're doing something you really love.
Yeah.
You know, and that I was fortunate very early to discover this is what I want to be doing. And and so for me, it's not even like you're going to work when you leave the house. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do that, you know. So I still get excited, you know, each day to go to work. And as I mentioned, it's like just leaving the house and going to talk to some friends and customers, and that's makes my life pretty easy and day really goes smooth.
Yeah. So 30,000 foot view. If I remember correctly, you went to McDowell, right?
Yes.
You're in 1988.
Graduated from 1988.
Yeah. So tell us about kind of your background.
So grew up in Mill Creek my whole life here in Erie, and played baseball most of my young adult. Played it for McDowell, baseball for McDowell. And I've always, that was kind of my sport. I have family members that were, have a history of boxing. So they were fighters in boxing. And I did a little bit, never fought amateur or pro, but we'd go and train together. And
would you do that locally?
Yeah. We would do that locally. And as far as the auto, so I graduated from high school, and I was debating whether to go to college. I guess my thoughts were, you know, that might be a good pathway, you know. And if you said, well, what do you think you would have done? I maybe would have looked into being an attorney or went that way. But again, I fell in love really early with the auto industry. My father had a used car lot. So I was there often at, 15 years old, washing cars, cleaning cars. He would take me around. We were buying a lot of trade-ins at that time at the new car dealers. They weren't keeping.
So this was mid 80s?
I graduated in 88, so this would have been, 86.
Okay.
85, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So kind of like Back to the Future.
Yeah. So at that time, he would buy a lot of the trade-ins. His place was on East 26th Street, Action Auto Sales.
What was the cross street?
941. It would have been right near East Avenue. It was where my dad's lot was.
Yeah.
And, but again, we had 100 cars on the lot, and we were buying a lot of local trade-ins from the new car stores. So I'd go with him. We'd buy cars and bring them back, get them reconditioned, safety checked, things like that, and then we would sell those cars. So I really enjoyed that. And then as I evolved, he had salespeople working with him, and I guess my dad was a great example as an operator, and how he treated employees and how he treated customers and guests. And for me, he used to just have me shadow some of the salespeople. And I noticed they would always, which again made me probably a salesperson, because they might spend some time with somebody. And if it wasn't going in the right direction, they might say, why don't you talk to him? I got somebody coming in or whatever. So I'd end up talking to these people. The next thing you know, they're buying a car. And it just, so I guess I started.
You were kind of a natural?
Well, no, I think that I just, maybe they overthought it, or, I did learn too, you can never project if someone's a buyer or not. You really just got to help them through that process. And if you listen enough, most people will guide you as to what their needs and wants are.
Sure.
And you could just help facilitate that. So I think for me, I was maybe more patient.
Yeah.
In that process. And and then in 1988, I graduated, and we had bought a salvage yard on Wattsburg Road, Route 8, where our current, we have an Auto Express dealership there. and it was Mother's Auto Parts, which we named it that, or I named it that, my brother and I. And mainly, we go, why? Where'd you get them up with Mother's? At that point, we thought it was a great marketing. You know, somebody isn't going to forget they bought a used part from Mother's Auto Parts, you know, and it really grew quickly. And
well, I mean, where'd you come up with the name, though? Was it like a tribute to your mom?
Not really. No, it was more from advertising, like a joke or fun, you know, that we thought from a marketing standpoint, who's going to forget that? Like, you know, you think of a salvage yard of a junkyard dog and the tough guys, and it was Mother's Auto.
You were going to spin it a little bit.
We spun it, yeah. So that was actually a great learning curve for me because I never sold used auto parts. So that was basically a time when a lot of do-it-yourselfers were fixing up their own vehicles. So, you know, they would come. And again, we were buying all these cars. So the ones that didn't make it to the car lot ended up with me at the salvage yard. So at that point, I would market the parts off of them and help people fix their cars up. And then a few years into that, because we had quite a bit of acreage, some of the cars that I could repair, I would resell. And so then it started a small car lot out there. And
a second used car.
A second used car. You still had the Action Auto Sales, and then we had Mother's Auto Sales, and with the salvage yard. So the neat thing with that was, you know, you were dealing with somebody that, I guess what I learned with that is how to work with people, because if I'm selling somebody a car for $800, if they had 1,000, they would have bought a $1,000 car.
Sure.
So I'm really taking all the money in the world that they have,
right,
in helping them get transportation, and then through the time of their ownership, you know, I'd help them with the parts if they needed it, and
Sure.
do that. So it really, I guess, taught me a lot about people, and to definitely look at different ways to help them or put deals together with them.
Well, I have loved some fishing in the outdoors where I'm free. It's where I spent my time before I hurt my hip and my knee. When that doctor asked me, son, how'd you get in this condition? I says, hey, soft bones, I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. I wanna know, Doc, why do you think I got this pain in my joints from years of playing hard in this life that's too short? When that doctor asked me, son, how'd you get in this condition? I says, hey, soft bones, I'm just carrying on an old family tradition. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell me all about it, Doc.
As a disclaimer, this podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content on this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professional from any such conditions.